Burger King Regional Right Now traffic. I'm Rich Tier on WPRO.
And from the CCX Lawn Care Weather Center, here's meteorologist Carl Babinski with the exclusive AccuWeather forecast.
Hurricane Nate is the latest tropical system to be making headlines. Now in New England, this Saturday will be a warm one for early October, and we should have no less than partial sunshine, high 76. Tonight with some clouds, it'll be warm and rather humid, the low 65. That's pretty close to a typical daytime high for this time of year. Warm and humid tomorrow, a shower in spots, mainly during the afternoon, high 75. Then that rain associated with Nate should move in Monday, especially later in the day and at night. Some of the rain could be heavy. Monday's high in the mid-70s. Warm and humid Tuesday. Showers most likely early, the high 80. With WPRO's exclusive AccuWeather, I'm meteorologist Carl Babinski.
Right now it's 61 degrees
Where's your
at the
headphones?
weather station. I'm Doug Lizette,
Where are your headphones?
WPRO News. Stay tuned now
Oh,
for
shoot.
Intellectual Medicine with
Hurry up.
Dr. Stephenpetteruti. WPRO News time is 8:06.
The following paid program is furnished by Dr. Steve Petteruti. It's for basic entertainment and informational purposes only, and is solely responsible for its content. It does not necessarily reflect the views of Cumulus Media, its management, or its staff. News Talk
Hope there's something missing.
99.7 FM, WPRO presents Intellectual Medicine with Dr. Petteruti. Join Dr. Petteruti as he guides people towards living the 120 lifespan while maintaining youth. He'll apply logic, reason, and scientific evidence to address conditions that drain people of their joy and vitality, protecting people from the harmful aspects of conventional medicine. Now, here's Dr. Steve Petteruti.
Good morning, everybody. It's Dr. Petteruti at Intellectual Medicine. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful Columbus Day weekend. Today we've got, as always, some breakthrough information that's going to help you live longer and better. Basic information about lifespan. How long can you expect to live? What does the current data demonstrate? Where do people live the longest and why? We're going to explore some of those issues. And an interesting study regarding what some feel might be a significant advance in cholesterol treatment regarding heart disease. We're going to highlight for you how modern medicine, big pharmaceutical companies, can skew the result of a study in a way that can amplify its perceived benefit. Conversely, how they can bury incredibly helpful advances that are just not suitable for their need. And we're going to be talking about and contrasting the combination of cholesterol drug treatment with chelation therapy. Now, if you've never heard chelation therapy before, please stay tuned. It is one of the most important advances in cardiac care, stroke prevention, and life extension that has come down the pipe in the past 20 years. One of the cornerstone elements of living longer, living better. And we're going to be talking about that. We're also going to highlight again the study that showed safety of hormone therapy and contrast that with conventional aging. And finally at the end, I'm going to share with you the ancient Chinese herb that has been shown to be better than most prescription drugs for diabetics and for controlling blood sugar in general. I think those Chinese knew what they were talking about, Shannon. There's a lot of ancient herbs out there that have merit.
I think so too.
And you know, one of the cornerstones of the Chinese, the Eastern medicine, was its use of combination therapies. Unlike Western medicine, you know, we've become embracing of the scientific method. The idea that we're going to take one variable, we're going to isolate it, and we're going to study its effect. Now, that's a great advance in many ways, but think about that. How profoundly limiting. Suppose the real benefit is not in one isolated drug or intervention, but in a combination. And this is what we've uncovered at Intellectual Medicine. When it comes to your health and your lifespan, the combinations often is where the most effect lies. So we'll be talking about a few of those combinations today. But first, happy Columbus Day weekend, Shannon.
I know. So quick, right?
It's a great weekend. And Maya, happy Columbus Day weekend to you as well. It's a beautiful weekend for everybody to celebrate, a nice 3-day weekend when we get to celebrate, you know, the memory of Christopher Columbus. Regardless of recent reinterpretations of his significance, the man was nothing less than courageous when you consider what he accomplished in a little tiny boat, pioneering across the ocean. And yeah, as an Italian-American, it's a point of pride for many of us, knowing that he emanated from our country and discovered America, as it were. Anyhow, a couple of highlights, too, from the good news department. They cut the ribbon on the runway extension at Green Airport. This is very exciting. Now, folks, you sometimes wonder, why do we talk about financial issues in a health-related program? And that's because there's a direct correlation between wealth and longevity. There is a connection between wealth and health. And that which a municipality, a government, or our leadership can do to grow our wealth is going to make us healthier. So the extension at the airport, that's been part of the lifeblood of Rhode Island's economic growth. We are, after all, a tourist destination. And with the globalization of companies, the ability to move quickly from the one location to another is critical to corporate decisions about where to go. And this is a great example of multi-generational vision, different politicians, different aspects of the leadership from state to local to federal, all united by one big vision, making that airport robust. And it was Governor Bruce Sunland who was a real spearhead for this campaign. And I think it's a template of really how great things can happen. You need somebody with charisma and vision, and then you need somebody that can link cooperative effort. And that's how great things get done. And that's how this airport extension occurred. You know, I remember when they were proposing it and people were wondering if it would be good or bad. And now I can't imagine us living without it. And this new extension is going to be fantastic for us. So what about that connection? Well, it turns out that countries that have the longest lifespan also have some of the highest wealth quotients. Japan and Switzerland have life expectancy of 83 years. Mozambique, a sub-Sahara African nation, one of the lowest at 55 years. Now, this amplifies a point that we make at our Intellectual Medicine Center. The vast impact, the biggest impact on your life expectancy, on your youth span, on your health, is not a genetic endowment. It is an environmental effect. And the environment isn't just the air you breathe, the water you drink, although that's a part of it. It's the environment you create within your own body, that which you control. It's your hormone levels, it's your detoxification, it's your body weight. When you link these together, the possibilities are exciting. Now, Shannon, some people have wondered and have been skeptical about this whole idea of 120 years. I've heard people literally say, I don't want to live 120 years.
Well, of course they don't, because I see their grandparents and, you know, what they look like at 80, and they watch them, you know, in the hospitals, and it was not a good way to live.
So I had a patient this week came in and wanted to achieve weight reduction. One of the things that we have solved the riddle of weight reduction. We have a 95% success rate with permanent weight reduction, getting people to their target weight. I'm not talking about cheesy little 5% reductions. We're looking at 16, 20% reductions and sustainable. And in the course of my conversation with this woman, she was in her early 60s, we started talking about hormone replacement. And she said to me, Shannon, you know, I don't know. I just want to do things the normal way. And that seems a little bit abnormal to me, giving your body hormones. And I said to her, you're right. What's normal, historically speaking, is for you to shrink, wrinkle, dry up, wither, your brain to slow down, your risk of dementia to go up. That, ladies and gentlemen, is normal aging. Now I ask you, if that is normal aging, do you want to sign up for that path? I think not. The new normal is currently abnormal. In a good way. You don't have to shrink. Your brain doesn't have to dry up. We're going to continue to present strong evidence showing the safety and benefit of the lifestyle that we advocate at Intellectual Medicine. Replace your hormones, detoxify your system. And when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about that hormone element. And we're also going to be talking about the breakthrough of chelation, how it can help your arteries, the proven effects. This is Intellectual Medicine. I'm Dr. Petteruti. We'll be back after this break.
New England's leading talk lineup.
How you doing over there? Hey, everybody. This is our behind-the-scenes crowd, right?
It is. Can you turn that down?
Yeah, I can turn that down. There we go. That's better. All right, now here's our secret little chat room. We get to just chat, just you and I. And everybody else doesn't have to know this. We really don't want everybody to live to be 120. There are people out there that are just kind of annoying. And when they come into our center, we do. I'm sorry, it's true. We have a secret little camera, and it's behind the receptionist desks. And it has an ability to interpret the aura of each patient as they enter. We put that into a computer, a huge computer, it's in the basement, and it spits out a program telling us whether or not this person is obnoxious or good. And if they're obnoxious and they come back for the consult, we'll say, well, I'm afraid there's not much we can do for you. I think you should go back to your family doc and just take some Lipitor and call it a day.
You know someone's just going to take pieces of that and like post it all over social media right now, right?
Oh boy, that's and for people who can't take a joke, that have a ball with it, the uptight culture of our current society, right? You can't say anything that's a little bit sideways. People get all twisted about it. But sincerely, lifespan is not a birthright. It's something that you have an option to extend. And it doesn't necessarily, we often say that the most important element of our approach is philosophical. What's your belief system? Do you want to invest in life extension, youth enhancement? If you don't, it doesn't make you a bad person. It's okay to live that way. After all, we're all going to die. And for some people, the idea of extending their vitality and their youth is worth the effort. It takes effort. You've got to put in energy. You can't just go about the normal path of living. If you don't replace your hormones, you're going to suffer the consequence. And if you don't replace them correctly, there'll be no net benefit. Unfortunately, replacing hormones is not all of life extension. You've got to detoxify, keep your arteries open. Why in America do we have such a high rate of cancer, of breast cancer, and of heart disease, when other countries don't suffer the same fate? You know, in Costa Rica, it's one of those blue zones, Shan, the blue zone.
You know, I thought it was interesting you said about Japan, because, I mean, they're not beaches and laid back and...
Good point. Yeah, and they're pretty intense, right? They're working long and hard. They're pounding sake after work.
Right. So that theory of, but they do a lot of socialization. A lot of socialization.
What do you mean by socialization?
Like work.
They hang out.
It's a lot like work, and then they go out.
It's a good point. You know, I mean, the idea that
Community. I think they're very...
Yeah, community connected, and they're. I wonder what the poverty rate is in Japan. I wonder if they have less of an income discrepancy. You know, when you look at America's lifespan, and it varies based upon socioeconomic status and education. Smart people live longer than people less educated. Rich people live longer. If you're in Mississippi, you're not going to live as long as if you're in California. So, but you're right. That's an interesting contrast, because you have Japan, an industrialized nation, and doesn't have the benefit of an environmental enhancement, and then you have Costa Rica, which doesn't have any of those, or doesn't have as many of technological advances as Japan, and they have a great lifespan as well. I wonder what the common denominator is, and that's something people are searching for. More importantly, what can we do without moving to Costa Rica? I wouldn't mind going to Costa Rica.
Costa Rica.
Intellectual medicine of Costa Rica. Hey, we're coming back, huh? Gotta love Sly. Oh, yeah. Well, in my era, Shannon, in the 1970s, this was a big deal. In the 1970s, back when the life expectancy was what, 70 years old or something compared to the 80s now. Back in 1970, the life expectancy in America was 14 years shorter than it is today. Extending that logic, why shouldn't we expect to live 14 years longer in the next 10 or 20 years? And if we do the right thing, we think we can. So, back to this whole issue. What's normal, what's abnormal, and do you want to live a normal lifespan? I don't want to live the normal lifespan if it includes shrinking, withering, getting weak, becoming dependent. I had a patient in the other day, Shannon, in his 80s, fighting a form of chronic myelogenous leukemia. And he'd been through a couple of rounds of chemotherapy, and it just beat him up, lost 30 pounds, felt weak, went from being a strapping, muscular guy, even though he's in his 80s, to a shadow of himself walking with a cane. And he kept his shirt on. He didn't want to show me. He goes, but doc, I used to have great arms. And think about that. In his 80s, I applaud his youthful mentality. He wanted his quality of life back. Longevity, yeah, that's cool, but not in a withered state. And without replenishing what's missing, you're going to drain yourself. And the replenishment certainly includes that hormone replacement we're talking about. So the Women's Health Initiative, this was a study that has sacrificed a generation or two of women. And the headline read, "Hormones Cause Breast Cancer." That was a headline. Remember that in the 1990s?
I do. That was a big deal.
It was huge.
It was, yeah. I mean, emergency. Get everyone off.
Yep. Now that has echoed into this era despite new evidence. Some people, some doctors even, when they have formed their opinion, their attitude is, don't bother me with the facts. I've already got my opinion. And new data gets rejected reflexively. And this new data from the Women's Health Initiative, 18-year study, Shan, the artificial hormones, the horse urine hormones of yesteryear were the ones they looked at. And despite the unnatural state of replacing hormones in that manner, which we don't advocate, we advocate bioidenticals, there was no increased rate of death, there was no increased rate of cancer, there was no increased rate of heart disease. In fact, in the women who started it between the age of 50 and 59, there was a decrease in all-cause mortality. The conclusion, and this is where we part company with a lot of orthodox medicine folks, the conclusion was from the Endocrine Society, the American Menopausal Society, that it's okay to use it for bothersome symptoms of menopause, but then you should come off of it. Now pause for a moment. If these hormones can enhance your quality of life, preserve your bone, preserve your brain, maintain sexual vitality, maintain genital health, decrease the risk of bladder infections, why would you stop them?
Can you imagine? Well, you had a good run, but you're 53 now. You're past it, so we're gonna take you off.
It's time for you to age the old-fashioned way. It almost reminds me. In medieval times, Shen, they were concerned, and I think that this is a bias that's still out there, about women's sexuality. The idea of a woman as a sexual being was intimidating to the patriarchy of society, and it's categorized in art and in culture. I mean, think about the tradition in some cultures of cutting a woman's clitoris off, and this is all coming back to power, control, and dominance. And I think it's echoing into today's medicine. Why in the world would you willfully neglect a woman's need to maintain her vitality on every level, including sexual vitality? Why would you knowingly cut that off? It baffles me, especially when we know there's a connection between your hormonal health, your immunologic health, and your brain health. There are more hormone receptors, testosterone and estrogen receptors in your brain than practically any other organ. I can't tell you how many times women come in with brain fog, and men, and we put them on hormonal therapy, and it's like cleaning the glass on dirty windows. They go, wow, my brain's working again. Once more, there was a study done in 2007. It was published. It's referred to as the Fournier study after the lead author. And they looked at different types of hormone replacement. And they concluded that there is a differential effect depending on what kind of hormones you use. And we believe there's a differential effect based upon the route of administration. You should never take testosterone or estrogen, in our opinion, orally. When you take those two hormones by mouth, they go through the liver and they can have adverse effect.
We're not talking about birth control, though, for younger women, right?
Well, in fact, we are. Birth control for younger women, oral contraception, the longer you're exposed to it, has been correlated with increased breast cancer risk. Now, it doesn't mean if you're on birth control you should abandon it, but it does mean you should be contemplative in its use. I think birth control pills, Shannon, are used too liberally.
I think they're so passé. There's so many other options now for women.
What do you think is a great option?
The IUDs are wonderful. The Nexplanon is wonderful. That's that little stick that goes in the arm.
IUD is intrauterine device.
It is, like the Mirena or the Skyla, any of those.
And these devices have either no hormones or much less of a hormonal level.
Just progesterone. Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, I agree with you. And, I especially get concerned when hormones are being used to control symptoms of menstruation in young women, and they start at age 13, and they're on these hormones for 20 years. So you got to be cautious with them. That's the point. Not that you should not use them at all. And certainly topical hormones and the injectables don't work for birth control. But back to the issue at hand, When should you start replacing the hormones? And the answer is earlier than you think. We have women in the practice in their 20s and 30s who are starting their hormone replacement. Why? Because hormones decline in sequence. You don't lose them all at once. The testosterone goes first, and as that starts to deplete, you become, in some cases, more irritable. The testosterone can make you more resilient against emotional stress. You become less energized. Your brain slows down. It can start to become difficult to find words and to process information. Sex drive fades. Vaginal lubrication can diminish. Mid-abdominal weight starts to accumulate, and we see folks will come in with this constellation of symptoms. And often it gets misinterpreted by conventional medicine as being midlife depression. Well, your kids are leaving the house. Your mother just passed away. Of course you're feeling rotten and you're getting depressed and irritable. Here, I'll put you on Prozac. And those drugs make you fat, make you lose your sex drive, and somehow that's the solution to your problem. You're feeling bad, depressed, and you're getting a little chubby. Let me give you a drug to make you fatter and lose your libido. Have a nice day. When in fact, when we restore the hormonal balance to women, they revive. Now, unfortunately, that's not enough all by itself. You've got to bring the other pieces together to make for the complete picture of life extension, anti-aging. Heart disease still runs rampant, and the hormonal therapy is not enough to reduce that risk. What we have seen in our practice is a lot of heavy metal levels that exceed healthy rates. Well, what is healthy and heavy metal? The answer is like 0, right? I had a patient once ask me, we were looking at their results on their lead study, and he asked me, Doc, is my lead level okay? Is it high enough? I said,
high enough?
Yeah, I thought, make sure I have enough lead. I said, no, we want you to be lead-free, dude. This is not a good thing. A little lead is bad, a lot is worse. So you bring these pieces together. I see a lot too, women and men will say, well, my doctor tested my hormones and he told me they are normal. Folks, normal is a relative statement. Normal compared to what? Well, they were normal, and here's the chilling phrase. If you hear this phrase, run for help. They were normal for my age. What the hell does that mean? I don't want to be a normal 60-year-old dude, right? I want to be the 60-year-old who feels and looks 40. Why not? And that scares some people, Shannon. It just seems, abnormal, doesn't it? Why would a 60-year-old possibly be and look and act 40? It's got to be, it's just, a deal with the devil. Remember that play, Damn Yankees?
No.
Guy makes a deal with the devil. It's an old guy. He makes a deal with the devil and he gets youthful vitality. And it's Faust, right? The novel Faust had the same theme. You make a deal with the devil. You exchange your old decrepit self for a youthful version of yourself. These archetypes ripple through our collective memory and they taint our perception. Are we making a deal with the devil at intellectual medicine? Hell no. The Creator wants us to live abundantly, youthfully, and with great energy. And that's what we do every day. Now, when you get your hormones tested in conventional medicine, they are not going to look at the spectrum of hormones necessary to make a good assessment with regard to anti-aging. And the interpretation is skewed. There's a difference between normal and abnormal, right? Shannon, if I told you got a D in math, that would be a normal grade, wouldn't it? I mean, it's passing.
It is passing. I'm sure it's normal for
a lot of
people.
Totally normal. Mm-hmm. And you totally don't want that grade. Right?
No.
I got the patients in our practice, many of them, they come to us and they're getting a D.
But is it pass-fail? Then technically I've passed, right?
Unfortunately, no, it's not pass-fail, damn it. We want A's across the board. You get an A+ in hormone. You get an A+ in arterial health. You get an A+ in brain health. You're going to be knocking down doors, kicking butt, and taking names. Now, when we come back, we are going to talk about the clash and the contrast between orthodox medicine and the advanced care we are calling intellectual medicine. And we're going to have good news for you in the East Bay. They have broken ground, and we are starting construction on the East Bay Center. A lot of exciting things happening right here in Rhode Island, the hotbed of life extension and intellectual medicine. But up next, our friend Doug Lizette from the Revolution Soft Wash News Center with today's updates. Hello, Doug.
I can't believe I forgot water.
Oh, no. I wish I could help you. So let's see. We talked a little bit about lifespan and the Women's Health Initiative. We haven't talked at all about this cholesterol chelation thing. I'm a little bit behind.
No, talk about that.
Yeah. I might be able to segue right into brain and immune health. I think that's, to me, utterly riveting. I don't know, maybe it's riveting to me, boring to all you guys. I mean, really, the brain as the cradle of your immune function. Think about that. What do Alzheimer's patients die of? Answer, infection. Why? Because their brain is corroding, and as a brain corrodes, the immune system weakens. Fascinating new data we're going to talk about after the break, so don't go away. It's tantalizing, isn't it? Okay, go away quickly, but come back. Another hurricane. See, there's so many hurricanes. We should be hurricane proof.
Mm-hmm. But see, I look at that, I'm like, it's only a 1.
It's comforting here in New England to look at a 1 and say,
We're fine.
So what do we have to do to get ready for a hurricane in our hacienda?
You know, we don't have, like, here in Florida, and they have everything to bolt their windows, and
yeah,
they have those metal shutters and
yeah, you
everything.
push a button and they shut her down.
Yeah, we don't have any of that. What do we do?
Okay, this one's going to come to New England. And we have blizzards to deal with. I say you cut down all the damn trees. That's what I say.
No. No.
Tree topples on your house. That's not so cool.
When do you hear that?
It happens. All right. So we should probably buy some. What? Yeah. I like wood for the windows.
Mm-hmm.
But that's funny, you know. We think about bomb shelters and these other extreme things. The other thing people can't appreciate is that this advance in care requires a reorganization of household budgets.
Mm-hmm.
You no longer cannot expect to get the full measure of anti-aging therapy and have your insurance cover it. That's never going to happen.
They might not be able to hear you. I like that. Talk about it.
Well, the idea that anti-aging medicine is such a new facet of lifestyle enhancement that it requires a new consideration. It's like the cell phone era.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Once upon a time, you didn't need a line item for your cell phone. Now you can't live without it. Health care insurance will never pay for life extension to the extent required to live your best life. That's upon you. It's your prerogative. And as such, only you can decide what you value. And for some individuals, paying a couple $100 a month for their life extension is par for the course. For others, they'd rather spend it on socialization, going out to dinner. I mean, you don't have to have, it's not an either or dynamic, but every resource is finite. I'd rather not have to pay for cable TV, but I choose to pay for it because I'd rather not be without it. Shoot, I wish my anti-aging therapy were free. It'd be nice to get that. It'd be nice for someone else to pay for it, but it's not going to happen. And people that can lament that are going to end up missing the boat. Of course, they will pay for your cholesterol drug. Chelation therapy. I wonder if they'll ever pay for chelation insurance.
I don't see it. No one's making money on it. Who's making money?
Well, when it gets...
I was going to say the problem is if they come out with, a name brand
chelation mix
that you have to purchase, and that's the problem.
I don't see that happening anytime soon because a mix of ingredients in a chelation IV bag are all generic, and nobody's branded it yet.
Yeah, look at Qsimia. Generic.
Yeah, well, that's true.
I mean, you can still buy it generic, I guess.
That's true. The people that could make money would be the hospitals that are having infusion centers that are doing chelation. However, I predict that it will be approved, it'll be paid for by insurance, but only for diabetics who've had heart attacks or strokes.
That are the exact patient of that study.
I think it's going to be a very, very narrow spectrum of individuals, and they are going to leave it upon the rest of society to decide how to apply it for themselves. So that's Tact 2 that's underway right now. We should get a chance to talk about it a little bit. Oh, look at that. Yeah, look at these trailer homes. Trailer homes create hurricanes, and trailer homes make tornadoes, I'm convinced. Magnets. I wonder how our house would do in a. It's like the Three Little Pigs, right? You want to build a house made of brick.
Right. Right. Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna go visit the world's ugliest dog tomorrow, huh?
Will you stop?
It's homely.
She's so cute.
Cute, yeah, cute. All dogs are kind of cute, though. Even the homely ones. Are we back? Hey, gang, we're back. Remember this song, Shan?
I do.
Yeah, come on, it's a great song.
It is a good song.
Yeah, you know, there are a couple of French singers behind it, right? They always wear helmets whenever they go out in public so they can't be seen. That's really brilliant of them. Because
wouldn't everyone know who they are if they're the only people wearing helmets?
Yeah, but when they're not wearing the helmet, they can just go to a restaurant, nobody knows who they are because they don't have their mask on. It's like
you
Kiss.
meant when they go out like on stage.
Yeah, like, you know. See, we don't have that problem because we're on radio. We're invisible. So we left and we were talking about the contrast between orthodox medicine and intellectual medicine and facilities like ours. So here we have orthodox medicine, which is really boiled down to the pill culture. Doc, don't you have a pill for that? If there's a pill for that you can prescribe in the context of your average 5-minute encounter with your doc, well, then it gets amplified and promoted. Suppose the remedy is a little bit more nuanced. So here we have a new class of drugs created great excitement within big pharma. These are called cholesterol ester transfer proteins, CETP for short. And these are drugs that markedly increase the good cholesterol, the HDL, and drop the LDL. And the buzz was going to be, wow, we add this drug to Lipitor, and we're going to turn the spigot off of heart disease, and there'll be no more heart attacks. So they invested tens of millions in research. Several of the companies have dropped out of the race. Their drugs crashed and burned. They just didn't work. But Merck, God bless them, man, they persevered. And a study published in the New England Journal of Medicine, Shannon, pay attention, listen to this headline. The study said, quote, use resulted in lower incidence of coronary events versus placebo. It's a good headline, isn't it?
It's great.
You know, you put that headline next to the drug and you go, where can I get this new breakthrough drug?
Because no one really reads any further.
That's it.
Let's see.
Anacetribib is the generic name for this new drug. It's not available yet, but it will be, I predict, because Merck spent $160 million on that study. What is their REI? Isn't that the term the business folk use, Shan? RIE. I don't know what the hell it is.
ROI?
Thank you. That's what I'm looking for. I'm a doctor, damn it. I don't know what the hell this is. Yes, return on investment. $160 million. Now wait for it. A reduction in the incidence of, hey, I want to lower incidence of heart disease, right? Sign me up. Where'd I get this drug? Doctor, what will the reduction be? Well, 1%. 1 freaking percent.
I think they should make them put that in the headline. You have to.
Well, a Georgetown cardiologist, Dr. Alan Taylor, said you would need to treat somebody for 4 years on this drug to reduce the risk by 1%. Good Lord. Who would ever want to take such a drug? You know, we had a saying in the Army, never be the first guy in a foxhole or the last one out of it. These new drugs show their warts down the road, folks. If you're feeling good and a doctor, here's a good rule of thumb from intellectual medicine. Write this down. If you're feeling good and a doctor wants to put you on a drug or therapy, you need to be very skeptical, no matter who the doc is, including if it's me. Although, you know, we will explain the rationale behind everything we do, and it's extraordinary safety. But I see too often patients will go in feeling great, and the doctor discovers something, and now they want to put you through the ringer. particularly with all this high range imaging. But back to the drug at hand. Now compare that, folks, to chelation therapy. If you've never heard of chelation therapy, that is part of the problem. Chelation therapy is the use of intravenous vitamins in a specialized mix along with an amino acid called calcium EDTA in order to pull out toxic heavy metals, heal the lining of arteries, improve blood flow, enhance circulation, and reduce heart disease, stroke, peripheral vascular disease, angina. Now, it's been around for 30 years, Shannon. People have been doing this for a long time. And Orthodox medicine has always looked at it and said, well, that's a bunch of witchcraft. So they did a study. Now, folks, have you heard of the study? Did you read about it in Time Magazine or the New York Times? Hell no. Actually, there was an article in Forbes. And if you want to see these articles, are they on our website, Shan? Can we put them up there?
They are.
The Forbes article in particular, I think, is particularly apropos. The Forbes article is written in layman's language. So here's the headline from the chelation study. It's called the TACT trial, the Trial to Assess Chelation Therapy, TACT, multi-centered, sponsored by the NIH. And they were finally going to put chelation therapy to its grave to prove it didn't work. Oops. Strokes and heart attacks and angina decreased by 18% across the board, by over 40% in diabetics. A profoundly beneficial outcome. Astounding. In fact, as quoted by Dr. Harlan Krumholtz, a Yale cardiologist, if this were a drug trial, it would have been a billion-dollar blockbuster. But you've never heard of it. And if you're listening to me and you have any cardiac risk or unfortunately have had a heart attack, a stroke, or any vascular complication, you need to pull the chair up and listen hard, because chelation therapy has the potential to afford significant benefit, particularly in the face of diabetes. A series of these intravenous treatments, affordable, safe. One thing they found in the TACT trial, almost zero complications. And there have been millions of IV infusions of chelation, particularly with the calcium EDTA, and practically zero complications. Not only is it good for the arteries, but by pulling out those heavy metals, including lead, we believe it's going to have significant merit with neurologic health. This, folks, is the state of medicine today. Anything unorthodox gets slammed. If it's a big pharma drug, it gets ballyhooed. So I've had people go to their cardiologist and they'll say, what do you think about this chelation? Without blinking an eye, they'll say, it can cause you harm. It'll do bad things to you. Not a shred of evidence to support that statement.
Only a shred. We've been doing it for years now, and how many complications have we had?
We're waiting for our first.
Right?
Yeah, no. We've done over 2,000 infusions in our center. We do chelation every day. It's important that you be reflective in any of these journeys of treatment. And it's our job to try to balance all of these different attributes. And we're not advocating abandonment of orthodox treatment. You do not need to quit Lipitor to do chelation. In fact, in the TACT trial, the patients were already on the usual cocktail of drugs and therapies for heart disease. And the benefit was above and beyond what they would otherwise have received. Now, TACT 2 is underway right now. They're redoing the study. They're concentrating it on diabetics only, because that was the group that seemed to have the greatest amount of benefit. That will take years to get to publication. In the meantime, we believe people are suffering needlessly, that this therapy can be helping people right now in real time. Chelation therapy for brain health and cardiac health, we believe its time has arrived and that it should be here. You want your insurance to pay for it, good luck waiting for that. Insurance is there for when you get sick. You get a heart attack, they'll pay for that. You get demented, they'll pay for that. You get cancer, they'll pay for that. You want to stay healthy, that's your dime. You got to figure out how to invest in your own health, what matters to you. How should you weave all this together? And one of the things we like to say at Intellectual Medicine is that we do everything so we don't have to do any one thing. And because of our capacity to deliver a wide range of care, we can guide you toward the one that you need, the one that's going to give you the highest benefit. Well, we need to talk about brains again, Shannon, and the connection between hormones and brains. A new study has found out that the brain is a center of your immunologic health. Hey, Maya, do I have time to talk about brains? Not really. I got 30 seconds to talk about brains. I have a pretty good brain, but that's jamming it. So here's the headline, and then we're going to come back on the other side and fill it in. Your brain has immunologic function. And at night when you sleep, your brain cells shrink, allowing detoxification by pumping cerebral spinal fluid briskly through the cells and flushing out toxins like beta amyloid. Riveting stuff. We're going to explain it in plain language when we come back. I'm Dr. Petteruti. This is Intellectual Medicine. We'll be right back. Okay, so it's exciting to me.
I know. You like your brain.
It's one of my favorite organs.
Brains are cool.
Brains.
Right. That was a good game. In that study, was it just estrogen in the Women's Initiative?
No, it's both.
It was both.
Yeah, they looked at women, if they had a uterus, they were on both. And if they didn't, they were only on estrogen. In the Women's Health Initiative study, the one that showed the correlation, the correlation was only with Provera, the artificial progesterone. Even then, the women who were just on estrogen or Premarin, the artificial estrogen, had no increased risk of breast cancer. But the headline was, hormones are bad, right? It's really hard to think through complicated issues. And the majority of doctors never read the study. They just read the headline and listened to their colleagues, and they all ran like lemmings away from hormone therapy. Yeah, this needs to be reconsidered, but it also needs to be done properly.
And no one's no one's going to do a study on bioidentical.
Never. You'll never see a study on bioidenticals because it's too complicated. It's too individualized.
True.
We like, in conventional medicine, we like standardization, we like protocols and pathways. We don't like to have to think too much. So it's incumbent upon an individual to do their own homework and really reflect upon their own philosophy and then decide what path they want to walk. And this should come from a provider, nurse practitioner, or a physician with special knowledge and expertise in hormone management. You can't get this from Freddie the pharmacist and expect them to manage you. They're great, and compounding pharmacists are essential partners in care. But if they are the leader of therapy, I don't think that's your best framework of care. You need an expert behind the drug. It's not enough just to take one dose and slather it on. Furthermore, your need is going to change over time, right? The hormones that you need at age 50 will differ by the time you're 55, and you've got to keep up with that changing need. It's not a fire and forget. That's what conventional medicine likes to do. Remember when we used to give Prempro, and it was one size fits all.
Right.
We wouldn't even test hormone levels, right? We just give you the drug. And even then, as sort of, I don't know, superficial as that was, it's better than what they're doing now, which is nothing. I got to look, there are these great works of art showing women being wrestled to the ground by demons. And the artistic interpretation is that the demons wrestling them to the ground, it's their libido, it's their id that's being suppressed in order to make, I don't know, the world safer for men.
You think men would like it?
What they do, they like it in the prostitutes. So there was always this dichotomy. And, I think it ripples through current society, that sex is not meant for a proper woman. She's the one who's going to birth your child and take care of your home. And if she's sexually vital, it upsets the equilibrium, and therefore it has to be contained. Why else would you cut the clitoris off a woman in some tribes? Okay, in our culture, we don't necessarily cut off a clitoris, but we do a lot of things to complicate and muddle.
Hysterectomy.
That's a good point.
Just cut everything out. You're fine.
Yeah. Take out your uterus, take out your ovaries.
And you'd never do that to a male. And not replace it.
Yeah, that's a good point. No, I've had many men come to me, speaking of hormones, that are fighting prostate cancer. And the standard of care is when you've had prostate cancer and it's been treated and your PSA level starts to go up. Even in the absence of symptom, they will offer you hormonal blocking therapy. Now think about that. You're feeling great, your number goes up, and they give you a drug that wipes out your testosterone, makes you feel horrible, shrinks your muscle, and accelerates your risk of dementia, and has no proven benefit with regard to longevity regarding the prostate cancer. Prostate cancer is going to advance anyhow. Hey gang, I am back. Dr. Petteruti, WPRO, the voice of Southern New England. We thank them for this platform to allow us to educate the public about intellectual medicine. You can live differently. The science moves faster than the medicine. Medicine oftentimes is a barrier to novel advances in healthcare, ironically. And because it's new, it's alien, and it kind of develops a reactive resistance. You know, when I was in medical school, we didn't think that the brain had any lymphatics. Lymphatics, folks, is the clear fluid that circulates through your body like blood, and it carries immune cells in it and antibodies in it, and it takes away junk. So it detoxifies, and it fights bacteria. It's a part of your immune system. Well, recent studies have demonstrated the presence of lymphatic system in the brains of many animals. In fact, preliminary studies have demonstrated lymphatics in the human brain. And this is a huge breakthrough because it connects to dementia and to immunologic health. It appears that the dementia risk may be increased by poor immunologic health, that the brain is not only the center of our being, but is critical to your immune function. Think about it. What do people with Alzheimer's disease die from? They die from infection. The immune system is run in many ways by the brain. So the flow through the brain of lymphatics is a new element that's been established. And there's a connection between your brain's health and your sleep quality. It goes something like this. Throughout the day, the brain is on overdrive, constantly working. And you're accumulating toxins all day long in your brain, including the beta amyloid protein that has been associated with Alzheimer's dementia. It builds up in your brain as a toxic product. When you sleep, it appears the brain cells actually shrink a little bit, Shannon. You know, shrinking brain, the brain cells. And it opens up the pathways. It's like undamming the flow through the brain of cerebral spinal fluid. And this fluid starts to accelerate in its flow rate, flushing out toxins, flushing out beta amyloid, cleaning the brain. And the new thinking is that this may be why sleep deprivation increases your risk of death, why sleep deprivation corrodes brain function. And you and I were talking earlier, Shannon, about one of the chief complaints of women as they enter their perimenopause and of men as they age. Doctor, I'm not sleeping so good, right? How were you 5 or 10 years ago? I slept well back then. Chronic sleep deprivation may well correlate with an increase of dementia because you're failing to flush out these beta amyloids and other toxins. Now, what's going to help you with sleep? We're not talking drugs. Drug-induced sleep likely has a different dynamic and may not have this benefit. But it turns out that hormones are critical to proper sleep quality. Testosterone and progesterone. Progesterone metabolizes in the liver to a hormone known as allopregnanolone. That's a natural precursor to sleep. So if you are chronically fractured in your sleep, you are straining your brain. Furthermore, you're failing to make enough growth hormone to restore yourself. You put all this together, and it's a picture of brain stress. Now, the brain, I say, is one of my favorite organs. I like my brain. I do not want to live 120 years if my brain is not coming with me. Therefore, I advocate for the use of hormone therapy because we know there's a connection based upon studies between hormonal health and brain health. Studies have connected the absence of adequate hormone support to an accelerated dementia. Women who have a hysterectomy and have their ovaries removed for non-cancerous reasons or cancer have an increased rate of dementia in many studies. Men who have hormone deprivation therapy as part of their prostate cancer treatment likewise have elevated rates of dementia. Well, it makes sense, doesn't it? If the hormones are critical to your brain function, you got to connect them. Wow, that's a lot to swallow, folks. I applaud your stamina for being able to connect all these threads. You know, we started out talking about Eastern medicine, the connection between multiple facets of care and better outcomes. You cannot boil the complexity of human longevity down to one ingredient. Anti-aging is not hormone therapy. Hormone therapy is a part of anti-aging. And it must be guided by a nurse practitioner or a physician who has competence and expertise in this field. It is not a one-size-fits-all, and it never will be. Shannon was saying, gee, will they ever do a study on bioidentical hormones and cancer or dementia or even life extension itself? And the answer is no, that study will never happen because the results and the treatments, that is, are too individualized, and that makes it complicated to study. Not that it ought not to be done, it just can't be boiled down to something as simple as a one-ingredient study. Now, I promised you at the beginning I'd tell you about the ancient Chinese herb, and it connects, everything starts to connect here. Why do we succeed at weight loss when others fail? Because we recognize its multifaceted resilience to any one treatment. Listen, diet and exercise fails 100% of the time for significant weight loss. Drug therapy is inadequate. You've got to bring things together. So I'll give you this tip, but don't run out and get berberine and expect to lose weight tomorrow. Berberine, in fact, the ancient Chinese herb, it's been around for thousands of years, has been shown in studies, in Western medicine studies, to reduce blood sugar as well as or better than some prescription drugs. It's pretty exciting, huh, Shan? Imagine that, a supplement,
It is a supplement
that can lower your blood sugar as well as metformin without side effects, with no drug effect. I mean, why not do that? If you're a diabetic, talk to your doctor about this before you add it to your regimen, because of course, if you lower your sugar too much, you can get low sugar reactions. But berberine twice a day before meals, about 500 milligrams per dose, correlates with a reduction in blood sugar, blocks carbohydrate reabsorption, and also stimulates immune function. It's a fabulous supplement. We use it often. We use it in our weight loss program, in fact, because we know that the cornerstone, the foundation piece, one of those of life extension is living at your best weight. And that's not based on your body mass index. It's a percent body fat. Excess adiposity accelerates brain shrinking, interferes with hormonal health. You take an obese man and put him on testosterone, you know what you get, Shannon? A man growing breasts. It's just because the fat cells are turning things into estrogen, and it's got to be balanced. Things have to come together. So berberine for weight loss and for blood sugar control is our tip of the day. Being mindful about how you read these modern studies. They are often accelerated. The headlines are often exaggerated. And there's universal dismissal of nutritional advances as well as unorthodox approaches, such as chelation therapy, although I predict chelation will go mainstream, Shannon.
Yeah, what's
I
your prediction?
do.
How many years?
I think it'll be about 5 to 10 years. I think the TACT2 trial, the second study for chelation, is underway. And my colleagues are telling me the early reports are astoundingly favorable, that they expect it to be positive with patients living longer with less heart attacks and strokes. But ultimately, it'll be too little too late for many people currently listening to this show who are active in their heart disease. And for some, they will, I think, approve it for a narrow spectrum of folks, not for the broad population. Get out in front of the wave, people. Well, it's a Columbus Day weekend. The reason you want to live longer is so you can have fun, so you can go out and do cool stuff. So it's the Scituate Art Festival. You're going to go check that out, Shay? What do you think?
Of course.
We're going to go up there in Scituate. And
I think, it's nice. It's a nice little traditional weekend.
it's a Rhode Island thing. That's very cool. So it'll be a beautiful weekend to go out there and enjoy it. And in the meantime, you can stay listening to WPRO. Stay with us throughout the weekend. This is your radio station for intellectual medicine. This is the radio station for intellectual listeners. One show after another, full of thoughtful conversation. And up next is Tony DeJesus with Big Blue Bug Solutions. Speaking of intellects, he knows more about bugs and vermin than any human being I know. Thanks to Doug Lizette in the newsroom and Maya behind the glass. I'm Dr. Steve Petteruti. This is Intellectual Medicine, and we are wishing you 120 youthful years. See you next week, everybody.